نستمع الآن إلى عرض حول استراتيجيا تنويع مصادر الطاقة في لبنان بين العامين 2010 و2035 مع الاستشاري في شؤون الطاقة والخصخصة والأمين العام للمجلس العالمي للطاقة لجنة لبنان الأستاذ رودي بارودي.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank First Protocol to give us this opportunity to give this presentation along with the future of energy in Lebanon. My presentation will tackle a coherent national energy policy which Lebanon lacks. We have never had one, due probably to the war and till recently for the economic appraisal of the offshore. So we have never had the chance nor the political will in the previous governments to put one coherent one that will tackle natural gas, transportation, co-gen, hydro, wind, power. For an energy policy, it has to be balanced between the 7 main items that you will see on the screen here. Basically, one is to diversify the energy supplies, sustain economic growth, protect the environment, which I'm not going to spend some time on because I understand this afternoon we have the minister who is going to tackle the Copenhagen call to enhance the energy security for the country, fostering new technologies for energy efficiency, whether it is for power plants or for cars, increase power quality and affordable energy access, shifting the government subsidies to different sectors. The diversification of energy sources is going to be a key success factor in minimizing cost and risk of supply. The fuel mix necessary to fulfill domestic energy needs is going to be a needed factor by creating 4 sectors, 4 supplies other than just heavy fuel oil, gas oil, and or some hydro, which represents around 200 megawatt from our energy park, which is around 2,000. This will also result in offsetting price volatility. We will no longer be at the mercy, like the Access representative said, that if the price of oil is still going up, it will no longer be at the mercy of $100 or $120 per barrel. And if we consider what the Access representative has said on the from the analysis from Bloomberg, if it's going to go over 100 and the subsidies continue on EDL as they are, we will probably have to subsidize over $2 billion for the state utility today. Careful consideration of available and supply options have to be discussed too, timing and cost, and we have to reinforce the Euro-Mediterranean connections as well as the Mashriq electricity and natural gas grids, which will come on probably slide 12 or slide 13 of this presentation. The majority of the fuel that is imported here is probably used by up to certain 80-85% by the transport. The transport could do a major a move into the fuel switching and to upgrade the engine technologies that are going to be available for the cars, like they have been available for the cars in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East, Cairo. And the objective of this presentation is to provide analytical underpinning and support to the Lebanese government ongoing effort to develop and implement a sustainable energy infrastructure. Here we will see the world primary energy demand, and we look at it from the 1980 to 2000 2030, you will see that coal is always going to be there. Coal will still represent more or less around 40% of the world energy supply. The world energy generation is going to be still produced by coal. I'm mentioning coal is that because a few years ago, some voices were saying that the country here cannot have coal. Why they cannot have coal? The regions, the Euromed, which you will see now in a different slide, they have 27 power plants only using coal and the old conventional coal. Why can't we have one? For example, our neighbors, the Turkish utilities, they have up to 27% of their power generation using coal. Israel is using 32% of their 9,000 megawatt needs, which is almost 3.5 times of what we have here on coal. Greece, which is supposed to be also a touristic place, they are also on the Mediterranean, they have up to 23% of their energy produced on coal. The world final energy consumption by fuel, it is composed by the three sectors that you will see here is the transportation, and it will always be dominated by petroleum products, whether we have hybrid cars, biofuel cars, CNG cars, it's going to be roughly used by 25%, which is equal 3,400 million tons in 2030. The biggest consumer, which is around 5,500 million tons, it's going to be the industry, which is composed of the residential needs and the industrial needs. And you will go at the end here, you will see that the power mix will also have the 46 to 49% on coal, 21 to 22 on natural gas, which is roughly a growth of something like 1.5 to 1.6 per annum from 2008 to 2030. And the rest is, you will see a slight increase in the nuclear use with only renewables like hydro and solar from 9 to 14. Now, what are the resources available for a country such as Lebanon? We have, in the Mediterranean, you have several players in the oil and the gas, but the basic three, you have Algeria, Libya, and Egypt. We have gone through that. We have also a possibility to connect to a nuclear power plant scheme that could be built in Jordan. Jordan's total capacity for their electricity is around 2000, 2002. If they build a nuclear plant, which they have, I understand they have already signed the feasibility work. The minimum unit is around 1,000 megawatt minimum. So in order to make a justifiable economically one, they need to put more or less around 2 times 1,000 megawatt. And with that, they will be able to sell 500 megawatts to surrounding utilities like the Syrians, like the West Bank, like us, like the Egyptian ones. And the nuclear cost at an average with the new water power reactors, we are talking about 5.5 to 6 cents per kilowatt. Today, the Lebanese consumer is probably paying between 17 and 19 cents per kilowatt, which we We are the second highest kilowatt hour paid in the region after the Palestinian Authority. So there is a possibility with our fuel mix to have a mix of conventional fuel oil, conventional hydro that we have, and we double the capacity from 200 to 400 by adding the Bisri Dam, the Nahar Ibrahim Dam, probably put one in the on Al-Asi, so we are talking about 150 to 180 megagigawatt in additional, and we can have the connections for the coal and for the nuclear. The different fuel development and domestic production is, as I've said, basically the development of a power gen strategy to change in the power generation mix and in the transportation fuel mix. So it has to englobe all. The renewable energy plan starting from wind and solar, hydro, complying with the Copenhagen Call, which is going to be hopefully a protocol in Mexico in October, and apply for clean energy technology. The IFC, they have already funded with the World Bank a clean energy technology for concentrated solar power for 5 nations within the Mediterranean: Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, and Tunis. And Lebanon could also take advantage of the same thing. It's a 4 times $200 million for concentrated solar power plant that we can also use and add to our renewables power plant. The key factor is also, as Dr. Daher has mentioned, is governance and institutional capacity building. Greater transparency is also needed, and approval of new legislations, like Mrs. the Ambassador said, the Minister said, Dr. Daher said, and Mr. Dada said. Without approval of new transparent legislation, the private sector is shy and they will not come in. Now, where are we from the gas? Do we have any local? No, this is where we are. This is a slide on the East Europeans, where we can see the regional allocation, and we have gas in most of the eastern, western, northern, and southern regions. And we are at the crossroad from almost like 40 to 45% where most of the gas transits, whether by pipelines or by LNG ships. The one that passes near us is the Egyptian, Jordan, Syrian, the Lebanese line that will continue to Turkey. There are plans here that for that connection to be connected to the Iraqi grid once the peace will allow us to do that. And as you probably know, Iraq has the 4th largest proven of natural gas reserves. So we have gas here all around us and not even one single drop to use, except that finally in 2009 they have been able, after 6-7 years of struggle, to bring 1.5 billion cubic meter for the combined cycle power plant that we have in the north. I think we have to go back for the exploration. They have been, okay. Now for the exploration side, which could add to the basket of fuel, that could add to the treasury. I'm not going to bore you more with this because I think Mr. Dada and Mr. Dahar, they have already given you an exceptional view of the East Mediterranean, but we are located along the formation of the Syrian arc, like Mrs. Bala has introduced us to today. Turkey and Cyprus, they are also currently exploring, even though Turkey, they have some minor fields that they are using, but it doesn't represent more than 4 or 5% of their domestic needs. This is an artistic view of the offshore that could, like Dr. Daher said, that could form the blocks of the campaign of the exploration and production. And as you will see, the most important thing is the law, the PSA, and to have the delineation of the boundaries with Cyprus, Syria, and with Israel. This is another artistic view of the East Med. Conclusion, we can say that we need a clear national strategy for efficient energy use, taking into account the complementary benefits of reduced global greenhouse gases. The world financial crisis definitely brings us an opportunity to upgrade Lebanon's energy sector and offer Lebanon to shift to a low carbon economy. Iceland, Sweden, Denmark, they are almost 40 to 45% free carbon economy, completely free, and we can just do the same. It will appropriate stimulus investment in Lebanon energy sector, can also create jobs, like our previous colleagues here have mentioned, build an economic productive capacity, and definitely improve the national welfare. Because once we stop subsidizing the diesel or the petroleum products or the utility, that saving could be used by the government for national welfare, for health plan, for different badly needed for the plans for the elderly people, better hospital, better schools. Today, I have seen in some of the reports that the deficit concerning the EDL is around $1.1 to $1.2 billion. This is not permissible. Lebanon also needs a strategy to leverage energy differentiation with the natural gas, coal, petroleum products. Nuclear is at 500 miles down the road, which is not far. Increase the hydropower, untap the reserve potential, like Dr. Daher says. I am a little bit more optimistic because the whole region, they have had a success factor of 85% using the same or having the same sediment, more or less the same seismic studies, more or less the same consultants. They are more or less saying, and this is up to 2004, 2005, that Lebanon could have around 200 to 220,000 barrels a day for 20 years. So if this is the case, that will be a beautiful gift from God. The energy sector should be a major contributor to Lebanon's budget, and to finalize this, I just added this because to implement the above national strategy recommendation, it requires a strong commitment and serious effort by the government, especially in overcoming political and institutional impediments. Because some people or some other organization likes to keep the status quo. We have a treasure, we have an opportunity, we are in an ideal location for hydro, for power, for coal, and for natural gas. Thank you.